How's it looking? Yeah? All right. I'm usually the guy behind the camera. So it's like
Make sure he looks handsome. Everybody, welcome back to the VoV podcast, Voices of Vic. Today I am joined with Nathan Ching, the one and only Nathan Ching, Criminology and Public Policy student here at Victoria College. What year are you in?
Fourth year.
Fourth year. Okay, cool. You're actually the first guest I've ever had on here that this is the first time we're meeting. So this could be like a very, very authentic episode. Like all the other people I've known before, I've talked to them before, but we're actually meeting for the first time right here. So I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, 100%. So why don't you go ahead and start just by telling people, your background and I guess what makes you a unique person here at Vic.
Yeah. Well, I'm a fourth year student. I'm actually graduating in June 2023. As mentioned, I do criminology and public policy. I'm going to law school next year, actually.
That's sweet.
So that's very exciting. I think what makes me, I guess, a unique student at Victoria College is after these 4 years, there's been a lot of ups and downs. Experienced COVID, myself, and like in the era of COVID and how Vic has operated, I think, within this kind of era. I've had a lot of, not really clashes, but experience with Vic student leadership as well. So that's something I'm always interested in talking about. And yeah, I guess my choice to go to U of T was, I would say that was an interesting one, maybe a story for another time. But I loved my time at U of T. There were obviously some things I didn't like so much, some things I liked more, but in overall experience, I'm very excited to be sharing some of these experiences on the podcast.
That's awesome, man. And where are you from?
I'm actually from Hong Kong.
Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And you moved to Canada?
My family has actually immigrated to Vancouver, but I sort of went back and forth Hong Kong and Vancouver a lot when I was a kid. So I was brought up in a kind of English-speaking family with Canadian passport, so I guess you know what that means in terms of fees and stuff. But I've never really been to Toronto before university, so there's a lot to adapt to. But I mean, I like to think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, 100%. What are you liking more about Toronto that Vancouver might not have? Any key differences? We've had a lot of people from BC on this podcast already for some reason. I don't know why. But what would you, if you had to explain like the key differences, because to a lot of people, they're just two Canadian cities, but I'm sure you can kind of see what makes them, unique.
Oh, it's very simple. In my head, Vancouver has always been like a summer vacation home. And the funny thing is, even after immigrating to Vancouver, it's still more of a Christmas or a holiday home. But then Toronto is a completely different vibe in terms of like, it's a hustling and bustling city. It's where you make the money. It's where you come here to learn, where to study, and get on top of your stuff, Yeah. So I think it's very different in terms of that. In terms of like the city kind of side of things, I think Vancouver definitely has a smaller downtown. It almost doesn't feel like a downtown sort of situation. I feel like Hong Kong is more akin to Toronto than it is to Vancouver. But yeah, I guess that would be my take on that.
It definitely feels more like you said, just like hustling, bustling city. Because I came from a very small town. Like, we'll always, when I talk to international students, especially in first year, like they just see me as like, oh, this guy's from here. He's Canadian. He's moving to Toronto, whatever. He's like, he knows his way around. But coming from such a tiny town to this huge city, it's a big change for me too. You know what I mean?
It is. I feel like it really isn't the same. I think even if we're talking about, say, like the bar scene or like the restaurant scene in Toronto, it's much, much different than that of like BC. I feel like, especially when like the downtown in BC is like, it's literally just a small island, but like we have, like Toronto has the greater Toronto area, and that's like, it's still a metropolitan, even outside of like, say, like Liberty Village or beyond, even to Etobicoke and places like that, right? So it's a bit odd to me to think that I'm in Canada, but I'm in a really dense city almost. It's almost like I'm back in Hong Kong. Yeah. Except, it's not. It's Canada.
For
right?
sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, like, because in first year, we do orientation programs, and I became pretty close friends with these Japanese guys, and they were we hung out and they were always asking me to show them around. Like what's Toronto have? Like what's cool about the city? And I'm like, I don't know either. I just got here. I live in a town with 35,000 people. You know what I mean? We got 2 McDonald's in the whole place.
You're kidding me? 2?
Just 2, man.
I live right next to one in Toronto right now.
There you go. Yeah. We can just walk 5 minutes down the road. They seem to be everywhere.
Yeah. There's like a ton on Yonge.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I had to choose from that.
So it's definitely different. Like the culture is kind of similar, just like Canadian culture compared to, I guess, Hong Kong culture, like you said. But there's still a lot to get used to. Yeah. It's
a shame though, because I realized I only really figured out a lot of like Toronto, like restaurants, bars, or whatever, like lifestyle stuff in Toronto, really in my 3rd or 4th year, which I feel like it's a little bit late. You get what I mean? Like, because with COVID, everything's closed. There's no point in really exploring because there's nothing to explore. Yeah. But I think when I was back in 3rd year, it was such a revelation to realize that, you know, there's actually 2 or 3 bars that are on like Toronto's like not Toronto, like North America's top 50 bars. And I was like, I didn't even realize it's like we have bars. Yeah. I just thought it was mostly the one on Church Street, like Stormcrow Manor, and then that was it, right? So I feel like it's a bit of a shame that I didn't get to explore much when I was in 1st and 2nd year. So, I mean, hopefully listeners out there will be able to like discover Toronto a little bit sooner than I have.
100%. And like, yeah, the first years now, they come in, no COVID restrictions, nothing at all. They get to just get the full university experience. Yeah. But you can also think about it how, I mean, if you want to see it through a positive lens, you had the juxtaposition of this is COVID, awful scene, and like like university like this compared to university now, like you actually can compare, and it's nice. I mean, even last year where it was relatively low restriction, like there were masks everywhere, but other than that, you could kind of flow around. It still feels like a huge difference this year.
It does. I feel like this year is the first year I've really properly lived a post year 1 kind of life, and it's great. I love it, and if anything, it actually helps me see the kind of little victories that we have right now, like with the downs before, with like the COVID and stuff, and with like everything's closed and friends are like abroad and we have to like hit up each other on Zoom and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of depressing, but it's like you mentioned, it's a great juxtaposition to the the parties that we go to now, or the kind of lifestyle we live now. And I feel like we really learn to appreciate these a little bit more. Only because we had a pretty bad era of like lockdown and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to always look at it through a positive lens. Like honestly, nowadays I have a hard time seeing honestly anything negatively. Like I for so long I've tried to just see the good in things, and especially with something like lockdown and all that stuff, it's hard to not just like appreciate things, you know what I mean?
I had a conversation with one of the bartenders the other day. I was talking, like, I told him, like, I only really discovered you guys this year, and it's a shame because I wish I was here a little bit earlier. But then he was like, honestly, I'm not sure if that's a good idea, because we had a really rough time during COVID, and we weren't doing really well. Like, nobody was at their best, and they couldn't be at their best because of different restrictions, and it's not their fault. It's just how it is, right? But then he's like, well, it's great that you discovered us now because it's the right time and the right place for things to happen. And I think that's great that's really good for people working in the industry to see it that way. And obviously not everybody's that lucky, but when you are, it really hits different.
Absolutely. You just compare it like, okay, yes, you lost your first couple of years of university experience, but maybe it's not like you had a business shut down. It's not like you lost a family member. There's like a lot of things that could have happened that would have been worse. So but yeah, that's good. So how long did you live in Hong Kong?
I actually grew up in Hong Kong. I went back and forth Vancouver and Hong Kong ever since I was like, I think 5. I still remember like my first time going to Vancouver. I was like a tiny 5-year-old on a huge plane. Yeah. And I still have like recurring dreams about that sometimes. But it's mostly because I have quite a bit of relatives living in Vancouver.
Okay.
And I just went back and forth a lot to take care of my grandma as well. But I mostly grew up in Hong Kong. I went to like primary, middle, and like high school there as well. So definitely spent quite a few years living there.
For sure. Do you have any siblings?
I don't have siblings, but I do have a lot of cousins.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm close to my cousins. We basically see each other as siblings at that point. Like, if exactly. A tight family nucleus, basically. Like, there are people out there who have their cousins that are basically siblings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that. It's funny because I consider myself really close with my cousins, especially the ones who live in Vancouver.
Yeah,
and it's weird because every time I'm revisiting Vancouver, we don't really need the time to warm up or anything. So we just immediately click because we've been spending a lot of time since, the age of 5, I guess. And it's crazy to think that I don't really ever want siblings because I feel like what I have right now with my cousins, it's perfect. Yeah. I hear like conflicts with like siblings where they fight over rooms, they fight over like, whatever really.
Definitely.
And sometimes it's a burden on the parents to also finance both sides, like finance both kids and get them to university. And I feel like I had it lucky that I got to experience the kind of sibling relationship with my cousins without, burdening my parents with extra cost or whatever. I think that's great.
That's an interesting perspective. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Law school. You're going to law school soon. Are you excited for that?
I am very excited.
Yeah.
You have no idea how happy I was to have gotten the offer. It's been a very long journey to this point, and it's a tough journey as well. It's not easy.
You're going to U of T for law school?
It's actually U Ottawa. I'm still waiting. Okay. I'm still waiting on U of T. Fingers crossed, maybe. But honestly, I'm quite happy with just any offer from the schools that I've applied to.
For sure.
Yeah.
What's motivated you to get into law?
That's a heavy question. Coming from Hong Kong, everybody expects you to do law or, do medicine at some point.
Right.
But I was always against that idea when I was a little bit, I wouldn't say I'm old now, but when I was a little bit younger. Yeah. And I always wanted to go into international relations, but then my degree actually at U of T gave me insight into like what criminal law can do. And like there's a lot of gaps in like criminal law and our criminal justice system. So it's something that I've been inspired to kind of help fill in the gaps, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have a mentor. Her name's Adriel Weaver. She's actually a U of T professor in criminal law. She was the one that kind of inspired me to go into criminal law. At first, when I got into criminology, I was like, what the hell is this? I don't know what I'm doing. But then she showed me that criminal law and case studies have, they have a very specific function within our criminal justice system to guide like reformations and stuff like that. And I realized like that's what I want to do. And there's actually another story behind that, but it might be a little bit too personal to share, I feel like, but that's kind of the gist of it. I only really wanted to apply to law school in second year, but as you can tell, it's never really too late, I think, to get into law.
100%. And yeah, I don't know who I was talking about it with, but I was interested in potentially doing something like that too. Because I realize how important law is, and not even necessarily going and getting a degree, but just having that core sort of understanding of how all the things work. Yeah. Like there are such tiny details that are important for, lawyers to work through, and it's a bugger. The law can get you in so many ways. So
I always think of law as this is the cliche take on it, is that like whenever people write personal statements and stuff, they usually write they usually say like, oh, the law is like the basis of everything. And while that's true, like where does that leave you? Like what position are you in to kind of change the law or work within the law, right? And I think law is really about also protecting interests. And I think it's important to protect your interest, but also if you want to protect someone else, the law is the best way to do it. Because we put a lot of trust in the system, and the only way the system can kind of really work is if we protect ourselves, I think, and being able to protect our interests and other people's interests as well. I think that's a very overlooked kind of foundation for law. A lot of the times people think big shot lawyer working at a big law firm.
Yeah.
They get the money, they drink whiskey every other night and whatever. But it's always about being able to protect yourself and being able to protect, well, obviously your client's interests, but for me, it's be able to protect my loved ones from well, I guess like malicious people or less nice people or whatever, you know? Yeah.
For sure. You had applied to the International Mentor Program.
I have.
And you got an interesting story about that, do you?
I do have an interesting story.
I was reading over the form and I was like, there's no way that this could be true. So
this was true. Honestly, a lot of the information is speculative, so I want to kind of preface that by saying this is my take on it.
Yeah.
But if the circumstances align, that's how it usually is, right?
Yeah.
Would you like me to share that story?
Oh, I'd love to hear it. I think everyone at home would get a kick out of it.
So, the International Mentor Program. I applied in my second year, I think, because I missed out the chance to do that in the first year. I had an ex-partner actually working on international mentors.
First, what is the program? What's it about?
The Vic International Mentors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, they usually host ISOs, like the International Student Orientation Program, and they have like regular scheduled programming for international students coming in from like across the globe.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously coming in from Hong Kong, but you know, like the fact that I have a Canadian passport makes it a little bit of an awkward position for me. But still, I thought my experience from Hong Kong would maybe help some of the other students coming in from like maybe other Asian countries, or more specifically, there's a huge demographic of Hong Kong students here. I would help them feel a little bit more comfortable with that, and that's pretty much what the program is, I think. So the story is, I didn't apply in first year because my ex-partner told me like not to. There was she mentioned that it was a bit odd that I would want to apply just because she's applying, but I was like, you know what? I'll let you have this.
And were you guys still together at that point or no?
We were not, but we
Okay.
were trying to stay friends. Because U of T, as big as it is, it's a small community. It's a big school with a small community, so we didn't want to, cause any bad blood.
Yeah.
We did ultimately. It didn't end peacefully.
That's usually how it goes. Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, you learn from that kind of stuff. But flash forward, I guess, to second year, when I feel like I was in a good position to apply. I've had a few, leadership experiences. I've had my own entrepreneurship program within a different kind of organization at U of T. I was just trying out like MUN for the first time, I think, in a leadership position.
What's MUN?
That Model United Nations.
Okay, yeah.
And and all of that experience I thought would have prepared me for the interview, and it did. And then I realized on the interview invite, there was my ex-partner's name. And then she explicitly wrote not going on the, like the Outlook invitation.
Yeah.
Going, not going, and then going. And then so I went to the interview with an open mind, thinking that, you know what, my experience will speak for myself. And it seemed like it did. I think the then International Mentors Coordinator was there. There were other like peers that were there. Yeah. But then after like a week or so, they were like, oh, we're going to send you like an invitation to to let you know if you're going to be on the team or not. And guess what? I never got that email. And I followed up twice, actually. If I can actually show you the email if I needed to, but I literally have 2 emails sent out asking like, hey, what's my position exactly? Am I in or am I out? And like, if I'm out, is there a reason why?
Yeah.
They just never got back to me.
No way.
And the circumstances are I feel like it's very particular in the sense that my ex-partner turns out was one of the senior mentors who decided who would be on the team. And in my head, I'm just like, I can't believe Vic, let this happen. And another kind of circumstance that affected this was I realized I was actually blocked from Victoria College's Instagram for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks. And I actually talked to the dean, I think Dean Castle was her name. I talked to her, like, I realized, like, I'm not on, like, I'm not able to see, like, Victoria College or, like, the social media content from that. And then she was like, oh, that's weird. Let me check it out. And then a month later, finally, I've been able to like see Victoria College Instagram content.
Wow.
That was a shock.
That is crazy. Getting blocked by Vic.
Yeah.
Damn. Did you like, all you did was email them? Like, what'd you say? Were you like threatening them? What's going on?
No. I was just trying to understand the situation, because honestly, it's very logical.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really want my ex working with me unless like they're like a valuable asset or whatever,
right.
But I just feel like it's such a petty thing to let that get caught up, in college affairs. Like,
that's unfortunate.
What are we, 5?
Yeah.
So, but I feel like as someone who wants to become like a practitioner in law, I think it's important to understand that like you gotta go in with an open mind, but be ready to protect your own interests as well, right?
Absolutely.
And so I went in asking, hey, maybe I messed up the interview. There's a very big possibility of that, and maybe it's just my inability. Like it's my fault that I wasn't able to get in, but I would expect a reply immediately after. Mm-hmm. But then by the second email, it was still very calm. I was just like, look, I just want to talk. I don't want any trouble or whatever. But then again, nothing. And then it was a different meeting where I met the dean, and I told her about the Instagram thing, and she said she'll look into it, but she never got back again. So I don't know.
That's a pretty wild story.
Yeah.
That was better than I was expecting. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, but I think the key takeaway for me, at least from all this, is just that there's no it happened like a year or two ago. Yeah. And like honestly, I've mostly forgotten about it. It's just a very funny story to kind of tell.
Absolutely.
To think about, like, even in the corporate world, when you're working like in big companies or whatever, and you're just, like stuff like this can actually get in the way of you advancing your career ladder. So I think it's important to be flexible in like how you want to approach that. I think I have other accomplishments outside of Victoria College now, so I'm pretty happy with it, and I look back on this and I can laugh at this.
Absolutely. Nathan wasn't simping. He wasn't going to be no simp for the international mentor program.
No. Maybe next time.
Maybe next time. We'll see. Maybe if it's a bigger opportunity. But I got actually another interesting Vic story. It's a little suspicious, this one.
Ooh,
it's
okay.
on that side. So,
a little sus, okay.
Yeah, a little sus Vic story. This was like a couple weeks into this year, right?
Oh, okay.
So second year, a couple weeks in, I was doing laundry.
Okay.
I was walking down to the basement, loaded up.
As a man does.
As a man does his laundry, absolutely. Scan my card, get the 225 for the dryer going. They have on the app, they ask you extra 5 minutes for 25 cents. Absolute ripoff. I declined that. So
classic.
Of
course you would.
Yeah. Leave my basket up there, go upstairs, kind of chill, do some work, whatever. Then an hour goes by, go back to get my laundry. And as I'm walking down the stairs, I didn't take the elevator. I went down the stairs, fitness, exercise, whatever.
Get that steps in, right?
Exactly. You got to get to the 10,000 for the day. Anyways, I was going down the stairs, and as I was doing that, I thought that someone had thrown a glass cup from the top of the staircase just down at me. I heard a loud crash. It was just like glass breaking. I was like, what the I look up. I'm like, nothing's there. No one's there. There's no way a glass could have even fallen. You're like that.
Me.
The way the railing is set up, it's like there's no glass could have fit down that. I was like, what was that sound? No one's up there.
Did you see any like collateral?
I looked down, and there's glass everywhere. I was like, what's going on? Where did this come from? I thought someone threw something at me.
Okay.
So I looked down. I'm like, this is crazy. What's going on? And then I see the window in front of me, because down the staircase, there's like a door that leads out the back of Margaret Addison Hall.
Right, yeah.
And I see the window, and it's like a little like bullet hole shape on the glass. I was like, there's no way. You're joking.
You're kidding me.
It's like a tiny 1 centimeter diameter hole through the glass. Now, once again, I'm not saying someone shot at me. That was my instinct. I was like, are you kidding me?
But it did look like a bullet hole. So.
It looked like a round circle. I have a video. I'm going to play the video. I'm going to make a clip. I'm going to play the video right now of the window that just got shattered. I was like, holy and then my brain kicked in, and I was in like kind of this is an emergency mode. I was like, did I just get shot at? And then I ran downstairs. I was like, I'm not ready to take another bullet. So I was looking up. I was like, what's going on? What's going on?
Right.
I get my laundry, obviously. I got to go get my clothes.
Yeah.
Back up to the second floor. And then I was like, this is crazy. So I go and I put on my my shoulder pads for hockey. It's like a bulletproof vest type of thing. Shoulder pads, chest pad. Get a coat on. I walk outside because I'm trying to find the shooter. Right.
My goodness.
I go like this. It's nighttime, right?
Right.
It's like 11
Right,
p.m. So
right,
I'm like sneaking around the building. I was like, please don't die today. I couldn't see anybody, but then I check, and once again, glass everywhere. I was like, I can't believe this just happened. I don't know what it was. I thought it was maybe a car, maybe a rock hit it. I'm not sure. Anyways, glass everywhere on the floor. I clean it up just so that no students are walking on glass here. I clean it up. I bring it up to my room. I don't know why. Threw it in the garbage or whatever. And I go down to the base floor, the main floor, front desk at Margaret Addison Hall, and I asked them, I was like, do you guys have security camera footage? Can I see? Is there a chance that you could show me that what just happened like 15 minutes ago? I didn't tell them why. They asked why, and I was just like, whatever. And then they're like, you're going to have to email the head of residence for that. I'm like, you got to be joking me.
Okay.
So I email her, and then she's like, oh, thank you very much for letting us know that the window's broken. And I was like, cool, yeah. Is there a chance I can see the video footage? And they're like, yeah, we checked it. There was no conclusive, evidence, no video.
They never actually showed you the footage.
I asked, and they're like, yeah, we checked for you. Nothing. We couldn't see anything. But anyways, I want to roll the clip. Maybe I'll do it on the long form too, but I genuinely thought that it was a gun. I don't know what else it could have been. To this day, I don't know what else it could have been, because there's always sketchy people rolling behind Margaret Addison Hall in that building, in that aisle, in that alley. Sorry. So
that's not a great place,
dude. I have no clue. To this day, I wish I knew what it was, but they're not showing me the recording. This is why we're not affiliated with the college, right? Like,
no, you're not.
No, because I don't think I'd be able to tell this story if we were. Like, friends have told me like, oh, you could have asked for funding for all this thing, and I was like, I could have done that, but there probably would have been a lot of rules and regulation.
Like, what you're not allowed to talk about.
Yeah, and
it's not like we're bad. Yeah, it's not like we're bad mouthing Victoria College. It's just student experiences, and for student experiences to improve, and literally saving lives out here, you gotta be able to talk that truth with the evidence that you have as well, right?
Exactly.
And my goodness, I feel like my story was just nothing like that, but my goodness, that was literally life-threatening. That could have been, my God.
I might have overreacted. It could have been a rock. I don't know, but the angle, it was just so weird.
But even with the glass shattering,
yeah, just randomly, it exploded.
Scary.
That's the thing. It was really weird.
Yeah. Well, even if it wasn't with malicious intent, it wasn't some random guy throwing rocks at you or whatever, that should still be a pretty big concern, because you could have gotten hurt there. It might have been a facility kind of whatever, maybe their pipes were too hot or whatever and bursted the windows or whatever, or maybe some irresponsible student was throwing stuff across the street, and then something it could have hurt you and could have injured you. And honestly, I think that's taking it a little bit too light, right, on the university side. So that's my take. That's just my take.
It's a very interesting start to the year, that's for sure. We'll switch the gear here. You're interested in nihilism or absurdism? Is that a topic you enjoy talking about?
I actually do. I had a really good conversation a few days ago with some friends. They're into film and cinematography and stuff. And we're just talking about so nihilism or absurdism, which one is it and why? And that turned into a very deeply emotional conversation that I think that was the reason why I wrote it onto the forum. Yeah. Precisely because of that conversation there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the difference between the two? Just to explain for the audience.
Of course. So nihilism is the idea that you're in despair, I think, and philosophy majors, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's pretty much in the veins of you're in despair because of your existence more so, or nothing matters. Mm-hmm. The grandeur of your existence just doesn't matter. It's a bit different from existentialism, where your existence is the problem. But then nihilism is I'm in despair because of that. But then absurdism, I like to describe it as, laughing in the face of nihilism. And well, in the face of like there's nothing that matters and I'm depressed about it. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit there and just be depressed about it? That's up to you. But I prefer nihilism. I prefer absurdism purely because it has such a sarcastic take on such a heavy topic.
Absolutely.
That I think it helped me get through a lot of tough times, I feel like.
Are you religious in any sense?
I don't think I want to divulge too much information about that, but I used to be Catholic.
Okay.
That's all I can really say.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, religion's definitely a heavy topic. I'm not particularly religious, but I do like the idea of God, 100%.
I think there's at least one of him or her around, floating somewhere. Yeah. And I just don't know which ones, like which religion has it right. Obviously, each religion will think they had it right, but you know what? I don't know, and I can't really say like that's right or that's wrong. It's not in my place.
Absolutely.
And I think whoever's up there would probably hate it if I like decided on that.
That makes sense. Yeah. And honestly, this is just, at least in the West, like in countries like Canada and the US, I think that it's starting to become, I see less of a divide between religions and more just of a divide between the religious and the non-religious, because there are some people, they're just like, a whole bunch of non-religious people now are just like atheists. And at least from my experience, I've felt like other religions have almost began like, I guess, uniting with each other. Just the fact that the idea that there is a God in the first place, that's something to unite on. It's definitely an interesting discussion.
Why when I feel like it pertains to nihilism, because nihilism inherently is an idea it's an atheist idea that nothing exists out there, and we're making up stories to make ourselves feel better. I don't know if that's true or not, but a lot of times it's hard to be it's like, obviously I was taught faith at a young age. I should have faith in like where my life would go, but a lot of times it's hard to see that, and I want to see that, but sometimes in your darkest kind of moments I don't really understand how one's first thought could be, God will help me out of this, or like someone will help me out of this. Like, even if it's not God, like some better things will come or whatever. Like, I don't know how people can look at it that way. I myself couldn't, and so I admire people who can. But I think the funny thing about absurdism is that you take that fact and you make a joke about it.
Yeah.
It's like, so what? I feel like I'm pretty thankful for my life. Like, when people are like, who are you thanking? Is there a God that you're thanking? And just, I don't know. I just feel grateful. I know something, and it's how I feel. I don't know something else exists out there. And honestly, even if they do or if they don't, that's really not my place to say or believe or whatever. And whatever happens, just let it happen and see where it goes from there.
Absolutely. Yeah. We were talking about at the start of the episode how you have to always see the light in bad situations. You know what I mean? I feel like that's almost what absurdism is doing.
Yeah. A lot of people have asked me, isn't absurdism just optimistic nihilism? Like, but that's inherently contradictory, because nihilism is despair.
That's true.
So how do you happy despair?
I guess.
I would say, like, maybe I am more of an optimistic nihilist. I believe that there might not be a lot of things that are going on that's like coordinated by fate or whatever. I still think it's a very funny concept that we as humans, we try to rationalize whatever happens to us as fate, as a story. Like, me and my friends, we always talk about how university is like a TV show. It's like season 1 was kind of mid and season 2 was worse, but then season 3 is back up there again. And I'm just like, it's funny because we're telling ourselves stories, and maybe I'm telling myself a story with absurdism, but it seems like the most realistic and grounded one that I can truly know. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Do you believe in karma?
I do believe a bit in karma. I think it's a very great storytelling device that people find gratification from. It's not necessarily a great thing to think about, but it does feel satisfying when karma happens to people who deserve it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say.
I absolutely believe in karma, whether it's good or bad karma. Honestly, I think that
true.
what you put into the universe, you're going to take out at the end of the day. And whether that's being generous, working hard, all that stuff, I think that as a whole, I personally have the outlook that everything that happens to me is my fault, the good or the bad, whatever goes on in life. I try not to blame an external force. I like to kind of internalize it. Yeah. And that, I know it might be wrong. Honestly, I'm not saying that that's a right view to have. It might be incorrect, but I still think that I can operate the best under the assumption that I control my own existence.
I definitely hear that. I always like to think, I've been told that I used to be a very selfish person. And so as I work towards I'm a little older now, I would like to think a little bit wiser as well. And I would be able to be more introspective with what's happening with my life and figure out maybe I'm the reason for some of these items. But I feel like karma also manifests unexpectedly a lot of times. It might feed back after a few years or whatever, and I think between good karma and bad karma, sometimes only time will tell. And it's very unexpected. When it arrives, it'll be unexpected. We won't really know how it manifests. We'll get a feeling of it. And that's why I think intuition is such a powerful tool that we have, that we should rely on more. And actually this kind of circles back to nihilism and absurdism, in the sense that I think my intuition tells me that I don't know, and I have to accept that I don't know a lot of things. I think there's a saying as well that, I'm better than people who doesn't know what they don't know. Right.
Right. Yeah.
I like to think that's how I want to live my life as well, through intuition and being able to accept that I just don't know some things.
That's true. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. For a law student, you are actually quite artistic. Photography and music. Do you play instruments?
Yes. I play with my band from Hong Kong. Yeah. We're multi-instrumentalist, so we rotate between guitar, bass, drums, and keys most of the time. I suck at the keys, so I'm usually on the guitar end of things. But yeah, I'm relatively artistic compared to a traditional law student.
When did the music start?
It actually started during COVID.
During COVID, yeah, like everything.
Like everything, yeah. Exactly. So it was the progenitor for the idea that I wanted to make music. I was bored in quarantine, and I picked up my guitar for the first time when I was 14. Well, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. I picked up my guitar in 2020 during my 14-day quarantine. That's the one.
That's what it is.
That's what it is. That's what it is. But I feel like music has become such a good catalyst for me, especially having gone through my first really big breakup right before COVID, and then I'm stuck in isolation, with my thoughts to myself and all that.
Yeah.
So music was a great outlet. And I had my friends in Hong Kong that were like, "You want to jam together? Maybe we can book out a studio, and then we can try different instruments." And I also picked up the drums and bass and all that. And we're making something pretty fun, so why not? Let's record and give it a shot.
And your Hong Kong friends, were they here?
Or
did you guys play over Zoom? There would have been a bit of a lag, That would be hard to match up the keys with the bass.
Oh yeah, no, it's just gonna sound like chaos.
Yeah,
it already is, But no, we were friends from high school. My friend Matthew, he's actually from U of T as well, but my other friend Josh, he's the front man of the band.
Okay.
He's in Melbourne at the moment. He actually flew over to Toronto to film music videos for the past month or so.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, he literally just left a week ago or so. But yeah, it's crazy to think a lot of this just started on a whim. We were literally I just want to play music together. And then we realized we're actually getting very creative with how we're approaching these studio sessions. So why don't we write? And we had 5 to 6 songs already almost ready to go instantly. And we were like, okay, this could turn into an album. This could turn into a full project. And now it has. We spent a lot of money actually this month, booking venues, booking cinematographers and directors to work on our music videos together, and it's a great collaborative process. I'm very proud of like where we are.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's super cool. And photography, you take pictures for varsity teams here.
I do. I'm a Varsity Blue photographer.
That's awesome. Yeah. How'd you start that?
Well, as most student stories start off, I was poor and I needed the money. So I decided I have a camera that I've always had. Well, I actually broke my camera, got a new one recently, but it was something that I wanted to finally put into, I guess, not really put into use, but put it, kind of use it in a way that could earn me a bit of income.
For sure.
And I actually took a few shots for like the varsity volleyball team when I was in first year and made the cover actually for the varsity issue.
Sweet.
And I was like, I realized sports photography is actually really fun, but obviously with COVID, there's not much I can do.
Yeah.
And so at the beginning of fourth year, someone was like, why don't you just keep shooting for these guys? Like these are great environments to work in, and they're great people to work with. And I was like, that's true. I don't know why I never thought of that. So I actually applied to it's a work study position. Basically anybody could apply as long as they had a camera, pretty much. And it's not like I was fully decked out. I only had like 2 prime lenses. Like you can't actually zoom in, and they're like really wide angles. So it was actually very difficult to get up close with the athletes. Yeah. But I learned a lot from that experience, and it was thankfully a very easy application process. And the people working on the team are super nice. So it made everything like, I think the transition really smooth. And even though the pay is not like exceptional, I mean, it's a student job. So anything above minimum wage is already great, I think. It was really fulfilling for me to have an outlet like that I can also earn a little bit of side income from as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. Which varsity team is the best?
Oh, okay. I cannot say that, but I will say field hockey is somewhere up there.
Okay.
They're literally, I think, number 1 in the country, or if not number 2.
Do they both have a men's and a women's team?
I believe so. Okay. I believe so. I would say I'm biased against women's hockey team as well, because they're very good. Like I've seen them play on the field, and they're actually playing the championship, I think, this weekend.
Really?
On Sunday. So I think that says a little bit about how good they are.
Probably.
And it's so hard to pick because I also love basketball. Like the shots that I have from like the basketball playoffs were beautiful. And it's hard to have a bias, but I would say objectively, maybe the field hockey team, because they're number 1 in the country, but also women's hockey maybe.
Nice. That's good. That's a good take. We actually just talked to one of the women's field hockey players yesterday. I mean, I don't know when it's going to line up for when we post this, but we recorded with her yesterday, and she'll be happy to hear that take. That's a good take from the photographer himself.
Funny enough, I haven't shot for that team
no?
ever.
Oh,
but,
shoot.
Yeah, I wish I did. But
we'll have to share this clip. They'll get you on. We'll tag them, and they'll be like, "Oh, who's this Nathan guy? We need to get him."
Yeah, I'll be back next year.
Yeah, exactly. With a raise too.
Hopefully.
You said you started playing guitar off of the back of your last relationship?
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
I found a very therapeutic kind of outlet, and obviously moving on from that relationship was not always easy, and being able to express it in song, I think, in instrumentalism is also great.
That's good to have an outlet, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
What would you say are some key relationship lessons that you took from that? Because a lot of people here don't. I mean, heartbreak is very common. Well, a lot of people have gone through that. A lot of people have gone through that. Some people not. If you had to,
I'm pretty impressed if you haven't gone through heartbreak, because damn.
if you had to give some forewarning, what's some relationship advice you'd give for the Vic students here?
Don't say yes just because. Sometimes it's better to think about the consequences of your actions and the other people at play, I think. I got into this relationship actually before university, but then we realized we weren't compatible because of our corresponding university lives. It wasn't like Well, we ultimately kind of ended up disliking each other, but like there was no hate when we broke up. It was just sad. It was over. That was a phase. And don't don't just say yes to anything, and really carefully think like where it's going. When people are like, just say yes to any opportunity, they're not talking about relationships, because that's dangerous. You're playing with fire there, and it could break someone's heart as much as it'll break yours. So that's one warning. The second warning is, I think it's important to always keep a record. And this is probably a law student perspective.
Probably.
Is that you be careful of what you put out there. Be careful of what you're saying. And like even like on a podcast like this, as earnest and as authentic as I am, I try not to bring up names or overly specific, I guess, like scenarios, even with the Vic mentorship one. Like I'm over that, and I think it might have just been a coincidence, as I explained. So keep a record of that and be careful of what you kind of put and say into the relationship. And I think the third is to really test the waters and be able to figure some things out and be able to be clear with where you're going with a relationship as well. I think clarity can save everyone a lot of time, a lot of trouble, and a lot of binge drinking nights. I'm not talking about my roommate here, but but I am.
Shout out to Nathan's roommate.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, so I guess those would be my warnings. But overall, a relationship doesn't have to be bad. You know, there's a lot of great sides to even like my last relationship with that, and my other relationships during my university time. And as thankful as I am where I am right now, in a very committed and very good relationship, it feels like I needed to learn those lessons along the way. So, you know, sometimes maybe you do have to learn those lessons to really understand what you're looking for, where you're going with like your life as well, and how like your partner might complement that or add value to that.
100%. Yeah, there's definitely a lot to learn. Like, do you believe that someone can, I guess like a high school sweetheart type thing, do you think that you can date one person forever and always?
I believe I can now.
Yeah.
I didn't believe it back then, if I'm honest. I felt as though I grew up in a boys' school to start off, and my partner, she went to a different school, and it wasn't really a high school sweetheart thing, and a lot of times things just couldn't be worked out really well because of our scheduled, like our conflicts in schedule. Obviously, money is an issue and whatever.
Not anymore. He's taking the photography pictures for Varsity Blues, making it rain. Yeah,
with $1 bills, but that's it. No, nothing more. But I think, I think I could date one person from now, but it really depends on that person. It depends on where you are in life. I've seen it work. Don't get me wrong. I think I know someone's parents who were high school sweethearts. Yeah. Until they broke up, you know, 'cause they got a divorce, but you know, but what I'm trying to say is it does exist, maybe for other people. For me, it really depends on the scenario and the stage of life that I'm in, and our minds could change anytime, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. It could change. I'm open to that, but I think what matters is like right now, I like what I have. I like the relationship that I have, and I think that's the most important thing, because especially with law school and all that, it's going to be overwhelming.
Absolutely.
So there's no point in overthinking it, and just going with the flow. But obviously there's limits to that flow. You don't want to I'm someone who really dislikes the debate about like cheating or like disloyalty and whatever, just because I can never do that. I know some people are very open to open relationships, but again, I can't do that.
That's not my thing.
Yeah.
No way.
I know someone who goes through guys every other week, and I know guys who go through girls every other week. And for me, it's just, doesn't it feel empty, you know, after all that's said and done? But hey, you know what? That's just me. No, I just want to hear their thoughts on it, and maybe hit me up on that. But that would be my take, I suppose.
That's a good thing, yeah, for sure. My friend Colin, shout out to Colin, by the way.
Shout out to Colin.
I got a call from him like randomly one day, and he was having an argument with 3 of his friends about dating to marry.
Oh,
yeah, he was
I would love to be there. I would like to be a spectator.
Yeah, because he was defending that. He was defending dating to marry, and his 3 friends were like, "Nah, you just gotta, dating to have fun and all that stuff." But I was kind of backing him and saying that it does, I guess, kind of depend what level of maturity that you're at, because I like you said, it's kind of empty just trying to run through people to.
But hey, if it's fun, if that's what people think are fun.
Fair. I got no, I know what you mean. I personally find the fun in the relationship I have.
That's
what I mean? True.
But
yeah, no, I try to date for actual relationships. I'm not a huge fan of just the one night stand type of culture. I think that's the root of a lot of issues.
That's very true.
Yeah,
I can testify to that.
Absolutely.
It's just, I feel like I'm at this stage where I'm really ready for a committed relationship and see where that takes me, because of the previous not so great in between relationships. They're not really hookups per se, but because I don't think I can do that, and I don't think I can pull that kind of stuff. But I do think that even with situationships, you got to learn from those, and that's where I'm at right now. Where I'm at the conclusion is that I'm good.
Yeah,
I think I'm good. I'm happy with where I'm at right now. Might change my mind, but I'm very happy to say I probably won't for at least the next few years to come. Yeah, and so what I'm trying to say is it's really where you are in life, and like you said, the maturity of it all as well. But I would say, just because you want to have some fun doesn't mean you're immature or whatever. It just means that maybe you're at that stage where you're just trying things out. Maybe this isn't your concern, but be warned. There will be consequences to whatever you do, even outside of relationships, like in life and everything, in every word you say, there's going to be consequences there, good or bad. So just be careful.
And sometimes it does make it harder for future relationships. Like you can think that your past doesn't matter, but you're going to start dating someone who might not be so comfortable with, the dating decisions that you might have had in the past. So that's true. It's another thing that, you have to take.
It'll be a shame. It'll be a shame if something like that actually interferes with the present.
Yeah.
And I'm always someone who believes in the fact that it really, your past does define a bit of who you are, but it's obviously not the full story. It'll be a shame if something you did in the past comes back unexpectedly and screws you over. That's not a great feeling.
Absolutely.
I'd say. Yeah.
This has been a great talk, Nathan.
Thank you.
Honestly, we covered a lot of topics, and honestly, I appreciate you coming here. If you have any final thoughts for the people, I'd be interested to hear.
We're very lucky to be in an education kind of institution. Whether you're listening in as a Vic student or you're not, I think the one lesson I take away from Absurdism is that every little victory matters just because you say it matters. And if you don't think it matters, sure, live a sad life. Live a life that you cannot really appreciate. And I'm not forcing you to appreciate whatever. It's just, life is easier when you can really appreciate, we've been talking about the Vic mentorship program. It was maybe a blessing in disguise if, the fact that I managed to spend my time elsewhere productively as well. So celebrate those little victories and celebrate those victories in your relationships too. If you feel like your situationship is worth celebrating, celebrate it. If you think you're in a good spot in your life right now, celebrate it. Even if you're not, think about where it's going to take you and how those experiences can really shape where you go in the future. I think that's such a beautiful thing about in everything we do, and I try to channel that as much as I could into art, and so hopefully there's an outlet for you to do that as well.
I agree.
My final words.
However bad your situation may be, however bad you might think it may be, there is definitely someone out there who would die to just trade lives with you right away. There are people having such tough times out there that
I'm lucky I'm in a sweater. I'm warm inside Robarts.
Exactly. Like you have to strive to have good problems. There might be people out there I'm getting bad grades. I'm stressed about this test, or I'm having a hard social life, and there could be all that. And then there's someone else, like, at least you're in the best school in the country right now. Yeah. You're a U of T. You get to take a test tomorrow. There are people out there who don't get to have an education. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's hard to see that perspective all the time. I'm sure I've had some really down moments where
it sounds
like,
cliche.
This sucks.
Yeah.
This really sucks. I hate this. Like, I hate whatever I'm going through right now. But you know, I can't tell you that it's gonna be okay because I don't really know you that well. I don't know what you're going through. But all I can do is just be by your side and tell you, like, hey, people have gone through similar items and look how they turned out, you know?
Exactly.
And like, if you don't know where you're going, that's okay. Just be in the present and we'll be here for you in the present. I think that's what's great also about Victoria College, honestly, is that the community at Vic is just so supportive when it comes to a lot of things. Maybe not the Vic mentorship thing, but even like the fact that we have 2 different types of mentorships is a big sign to that. We have a great kind of student organization working behind to facilitate these kind of communities. And I think that's what we need to focus on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
Appreciate your time, man.
Yeah.
Anything you want to plug for the people, Nathan?
Yes, I do. In fact, I am actually offering graduation photo services, and I don't want to sound like I'm plugging anything. I just feel like I do want to provide accessible graduation photo services for students who are maybe interested in group portraits or not professionally lit supposedly, but with a student photographer with quite a bit of experience. And I feel like I would love to be within that kind of position where you'd be able to get good photos for a good price. So it's only $60 per hour for a graduation photo shoot. I don't include gowns or anything, so that's going to be on your side. But hoping this kind of service, it's just to also fund law school for myself, but also as a way to meet more people, get more portraits on my resume, and to have a little bit of fun while saving you guys some money. So if you're interested, you can always reach out to me, preferably over Instagram, because that's where I usually do all my work.
We'll put the Instagram down in the description. If he's able to catch a basketball player mid-dunk, he's definitely going to be able to take a picture of you in a gown.
Oh, I got dunked a few times by basketball players.
Oh, there you go.
So that's the experience right there.
Awesome. All right. So yeah, Instagram down below. DM Nathan if you want some sick pics. And thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sweet.